Hello and welcome to the show. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I got invited to take part in an Assetto Corsa event where we would get a chance to play the console version of the game. Now, this was all taking place at the Vallelunga race circuit. I think a slightly brave decision from the developers, seeing as this track is in the game. It's about the only game where I've seen this particular circuit in, and not only were we going to get to play the game, but we were also going to get to drive around the circuit with a selection of sports or supercars. This means that we could do the direct comparison of how does a certain car around this track compare both in the game and in real life, which would be quite an interesting thing. Let's start though by talking about the game itself. The biggest sort of question when it comes to this port moving it from PC onto console is how do the physics compare? Has there been any compromises? Are they still as good as they are on PC? And I can bring some good news to this because they are absolutely spot on. The physics are fantastic. When I sat down, I had a good hour and a half, 2 hours playing this game. I've spent many hours on PC playing Assetto Corsa. There was no adjustment time. As soon as you got behind the wheel of whichever car it was driving, it immediately felt as I was expecting it to. In fact, the biggest difference for me had absolutely nothing to do with the game itself. The biggest difference, the wheels they had on the simulators, I used a Thrustmaster and a Logitech at different points, and it was the pedals. The pedal movements on both of them was much smaller, or slightly smaller, than I was used to with my Fanatic. That was the biggest difference I had between driving the game on PC and driving on console physics-wise. It's remarkable. The cars behaved as I would expect. Sure, I made some mistakes with vehicles. I went gallivanting across some grass at points, may have spun a couple of vehicles, but that was down to my driving errors. It was me being a little too confident or not quite knowing a track well enough, braking too late, or just doing something silly with the vehicle. It was nothing to do with a wonky or slightly peculiar physics model. It was my driving errors. If I'd done the same thing with the cars on PC, it would have happened in exactly the same way. Physics absolutely spot on as I was hoping. Admittedly, I didn't get to have a go with it on a controller. I don't know what it is like. I've heard that it's relatively good on a controller. Certainly with a sim game, it's always going to be better on a steering wheel, and with the wheel, it's absolutely fantastic. Other things, the graphics, yes, they're never going to be quite as amazing as they can be on a high-end PC, but, well, just look at it. This is the game running on console. It looks very, very good, and it runs very smoothly as well. In all of my time playing it, had absolutely no problems with the game running, even when you max out the AIs and so on, went racing. All of it ran very, very well. The UI has changed to be more controller friendly and to be able to navigate the menus on consoles. Well, yes, we don't quite have the little drag and drop widgets that you can mess about with on the PC version, but aside from that, he's never expecting that either. It's a lovely system. Unfortunately, don't have any footage, but it's a nice, easy to navigate system. You can find what you want, and it's still got plenty of options. At this stage, you're probably wondering what are the differences between the console version and PC. The first one, a number of AI cars that you can have. It was 16 cars on track, so you and 15 AIs. Yes, it is smaller than you get with the PC, but I think up to 32 on some tracks. But it's still a pretty good number to go racing. You still have plenty of fun racing against that many vehicles. Other things, loading times were a little bit on the long side. Admittedly, not quite up there with GTA 5 levels of loading time, but they were a little bit on the longer side. The AIs, certainly at the start of the race, after the first lap it calms down, but at the start of the race they were quite train tracky, set in their pass. As I said, after the first lap it did settle down, and at times the collisions, the bumping between cars didn't feel like it had a huge amount of weight behind it. However, let's not forget, this game doesn't come out till August, and things like that, there's still plenty of time for adjustments and so on, and I have no doubt stuff like that will be a thing of the past. The actual sort of racing and so on was very good. Now, on to the actual driving of the supercars. Unfortunately, and it is a real shame, I would have loved to add the footage of my lap. The cars were rigged up with GoPros. Unfortunately, there was a lot of problem with the footage, so yeah, mine went kaput, which is a shame. I had a lot of fun driving. I got to drive the Nissan GTR. It is one hell of a fast car. This is some footage of, I think, one of the instructors going around with the vehicle. Now, this circuit, as I said at the start, I've only ever seen it in Assetto Corsa. I don't just mean like played it in a game. I've never seen a race around this circuit sort of on TV, and until I played the game, I'd never actually heard of this particular track, so I knew very, very little about it. When I was due coming out to do this event, I spent a little bit of time on the game, learning the track, knowing where the corners went, etc., roughly where the braking zones were, and so on with the cars. And the thing that kind of impressed me most was as soon as I, got driving with the vehicle, everything, immediately felt kind of familiar, which is a strange thing. This is what is it, 4 kilometers, I think, of racetrack that I'd never seen before, except for at a game. And as soon as I got out there, I kind of knew where I was going. I kind of knew what was, this turn here is a horrible corner, this one. You think you can brake a lot later than you can. It's actually quite a tight corner. Certainly in the game, I've spent much time gallivanting off in the grass when learning the track, but yeah, it's exactly as it felt when driving it in the game. And when we come up towards these next corners, these are quite, certainly this corner here is not too bad. The next corner, a very, very tight hairpin that's coming up. It's a little bit of an arse to get around it in the game. And, driving the GTR, it was a little bit of a faff getting the car, making sure to get it turned in, etc. It was, yeah, as I was expecting it. And things like braking points, we did have the instructor in the car with us, so that we didn't do anything too ridiculous. He was telling us where to brake and so on if we were going a bit too quick into a corner. But these braking points, I was using the same markers around the real track as I would have been in the game. Cones that were around the place, curbs. There's a couple of, I don't quite know what they are. I want to call them traffic lights. They're not traffic lights around the track that were being used as a point. This is where where you go on the brakes. You'll see them as we come up towards towards the second or third corner here, technically. Yeah, it was quite surreal having driven this track for a fair bit of time in the game, and then going around it, the real circuit. It was spot on. It was exactly what I was expecting. Here on the left-hand side, the kind of traffic light-looking things. You're using all of these little bits and pieces to kind of judge where to brake and so on with the car. Yeah, it was spot on. And other sort of little things, at one point coming into one of the braking zones for a corner, I didn't quite have the car sort of perfectly straight, and just to get on the brakes, just feel the back end move around a little bit. It wasn't massive, it wasn't it was anything it couldn't deal with, but it's just little things like that. If you did the same thing in the game, you'd get a very similar reaction. It was spot on. Of course, I can't push the car anywhere near as fast in real life as it can in the game. I did sort of an out lap, a flying lap, and an in lap. So I only got sort of 3 laps with the cars. You got an instructor with us to stop us from really doing anything absolutely stupid. I pushed the car relatively hard. I got some, could carry some decent speed and so on around the corners. I have no doubt though. The car could have been driven an awful lot faster than I did. Certainly a fantastically fun experience taking the vehicles around this track. And after driving the car around the circuit, certainly sort of like corner grip wise, taking it around the circuit in real life, went to play on the console version, went and messed about with that. It all felt very familiar. There is, of course, one big difference between the game and real life. This is footage from the PC version, so that I could drive. This is the GTR. The game has the Nismo version. I believe the cars that we were driving at the circuit were just the normal GTRs. It's not a huge difference. It's a small difference in the vehicles. The biggest difference that you don't get, of course, when playing a game, or even from that GoPro footage, even, is sort of the forces that are involved, and that is the most noticeable difference. When you jump on the brakes in the cars in real life, you feel a lot of forces. We also had some passenger laps going round. I went in a McLaren MP4. When you jump on the brakes in that, the forces that move you about are incredible. Less so around the corners, still when it comes to accelerating. On the brakes is where it's most noticeable. Just the forces that go sort of through you as you're moving about inside the car is something that a game is never going to replicate. Well, not unless you have a horrendously fancy, elaborate simulator setup. It's those forces that were the big difference. I have no doubt the GTR could do the speeds around the track that I was doing with it in the game. if you were a good enough and a brave enough driver, because the corner behaviour felt as I was kind of expecting it to between the two things, and yeah, that really did very much impress me. This was me. I think it was my first lap with the car at this hairpin, and I was having issues. Yeah, you can't get on the power too soon there, otherwise you go wandering out across the curb. And it was the same case with the real car. If you try to do that with the GTR, that's what the vehicle would do. So to sum everything up, yeah, I am impressed, very much impressed with the console version of Assetto Corsa. It drives as I would expect it to. It's very, if you played the PC version, it's going to feel exactly familiar. You're going to get into the car, it's going to drive how you are expecting it to. If you haven't played the PC version, if you're waiting for it on console and so on, you're going to get an incredible physics engine. You're going to get an incredible engine for driving the vehicles, and you will have a lot of fun with the cars. And while the camera angle for this is a little different, I tried to get as close to the GoPro angle as I could for this little bit of footage. The tracks are remarkably familiar. You drive around here in the game, and if you do ever happen to go to the real circuit, you will kind of know what you're doing. You'll get the rough idea for braking points and so on. However, that is going to be it for this video. I'd like to say a big thank you to the guys that invited me along for this event. It was a fantastic experience getting to do all of this, and thank you very much to you guys for watching this video. But that's it from me. Until next time, goodbye.